That's right, folks. You know you're in for a treat when you hear that banging tune because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. If you don't know what Rec Poker is all about, we're an extremely enthusiastic group of poker players who, while we love the game and some of us do very, very well playing poker, at the end of the day, it's not a job for us. It's something we do for fun. We've got our own jobs, our day jobs, and poker is what we do to compete and to hopefully make some money and have a great time doing it. And at Rec Poker, we love working with recreational players and getting them further in the game, helping them develop their style, their strategy, become crushers of their own, and take that next step. Speaking of taking the next step, we're going to have Ryan Laplante here from Learn Pro Poker in just a moment to talk some strategy. The theme of the month here at Rec Poker is responding to 3-bets this month. So we're going to pick Ryan's brain about that. I'm excited for that. And of course, most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization. We do have a premium membership, which is a great value at $15 a month. And if people use their code RECPOKER, they can get their first month for only $5. But like I say, most of what we do is free. We have a lot of fun with our free community members. And because of that, it's really important that we thank our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, and Mark Bouchon over at website AMP. And of course, it's not just the premium members and the sponsors. The real heartbeat of what we do at Rec Poker here is the Wrecking Crew, that core group, that core team of folks that put their time in every month, making videos, contributing their thoughts, responding in the forums, hosting our study groups and strategy discussions. And if you want to find out more about me, I'm Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home game, and Rec Poker Jim on Twitter. You can go to rec.poker/crew to meet other members of the Wrecking Crew, or you can just listen up because you're going to meet a few of them right here tonight.
Well, I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the Poker Stars home game.
I'm Kim Kilroy. You can find me at PepThat33 on Twitter and Fergie56 in the home game.
And I'm Rob Washam, Rabman50, just about everywhere.
And we're joined every Monday night. We do these recordings live on YouTube. So folks like Joe and Ben and Martha, I see a bunch of other folks already lined up there in the YouTube chat. Folks can listen along and enter your questions for our guest in the chat for free every week. And we also do a prize drawing every week for folks. If they just enter the words food bank near the end of the episode, we'll do a draw where they can win something cool. So speaking of something cool, it's not his first time on the show. This is a longtime friend of the show, Ryan Laplante. I'm not sure if this is your third or fourth visit or something like that, but when he's not crushing it on the felt, he's helping us share our love of recreational poker players. There's not a lot of pros out there who love it as much as Ryan. So Ryan Laplante, thank you so much for coming back on the Rec Poker Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, I think it's somewhere around there. I want to say 4.
Four feels right.
4 feels right. That's somewhere around there.
And this is coming up on episode 429 or something like that, if you can believe it. So yeah, you're averaging just like one 100. That's you might be in that like John Goodman Saturday Night Live territory here. That's something to be proud of.
Definitely am. I've always been a big fan of what you guys do. It's always great to see people passionate about the game, passionate about learning, wanting to improve, and also wanting to grow the community. Poker doesn't really exist if there isn't more blood being added to the player pool, so to speak. But also just seeing more people that are passionate and want to grow and learn. I mean, that's why I created, my training site, and also why we have our GTO study tool to help people become more passionate and more knowledgeable about the game. So it's always great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I mean, people who listen to the show regularly are no stranger to Learn Pro Poker and Range Trainer Pro. They know that every Sunday in our free home game, the winner of our free home game on Sundays gets a free month of training at Learn Pro Poker, which is a pretty phenomenal thing that you're doing. And I know a lot of our members have taken advantage of that, and they say all sorts of great stuff. You're updating. Let's talk about Learn Pro Poker for a little bit at first, because I know that's kind of like your passion project. You're adding stuff all the time. What's been going on there recently?
Yeah. So a buddy of mine approached me a while back, that, hey, we should do a training slate together. And, I didn't really see much of a point in doing it, but, as I started put up some results and as I started doing more work with sites like Run It Once, being one of their elite coaches, doing, working with pretty much most of the major sites before that, I'd realized that there was kind of a gap in the industry and that there wasn't really approachable content for people, especially structured, easy to follow, very well, organized and put out content. And also most of the videos and content out there are very long, which isn't great if you want to really learn something. It can get very dry and very boring. And that's what Learn Pro Poker got created out of, just very structured content, very short theory videos. I think our longest theory video is like 14 minutes or something like that. But those theory videos, even though they're short, they are a lot of work. I'm going to say the average minute of theory video is probably 2 to 3 hours of work for me. So that 14-minute video is probably 30 to 40 hours of work for me, somewhere in that ballpark. So a lot of work goes into it. But then attached to those theory videos, for those that really like to learn via hand examples and stuff, lots of hand history examples. So I'll teach you what GTO looks like, and then I'll teach you how to apply it and how I personally approach situations and what I'm looking for, how I'm exploiting my opponents, that type of stuff. So I try to make it very approachable content, but also help give people the basis for good fundamental theory-focused foundation for their game that they can break apart from and grow their own approach and style from. One of the nice things about poker is that if you look even at the highest stakes, while you can tell that a lot of guys or a lot of players have a very similar fundamental approach, the way they build 3-bet and 4-bet ranges, type of sizes and strategies that they use pre-flop and post-flop are fairly similar. There are some exceptions to that. Their overall styles can be wildly different. And to me, that's like where part of, the beauty still and the art still lies in the game, is that there are a lot of different ways to play high-level poker. And while these study and GTO tools are very powerful, and are, you really should be studying a lot if you really want to compete at a high level, no matter what stakes you're playing. There still is a lot of art that is in the game. And to me, that's in part why I'm still so passionate about it, is that, for all the studying and stuff you can do, there still is that extra something else, especially for live poker, that can really give you a bigger edge, even in these very difficult games.
Yeah, 100%. And I've watched a lot of your material as well, not only just through being a member at Learn Pro Poker, but of course, you're aware, some of our audience members know, Learn Pro Poker was one of the very first Learning with Partners groups that Rec Poker started working with. So every month, sites like Ryan's at Learn Pro Poker offer Rec Poker Premium members the chance to go behind their paywall and look at some of their premium online training content that ordinarily would only be available for their members. So because we've got such a great relationship, I actually host a monthly Rec Poker study group that's just based on the Learn Pro Poker material that we've been looking at that month. And it's great just like you say, Ryan, a lot of the high level stuff can apply to any stake, the highest level games that you're playing, but we can extract information about that we can apply at any level of poker.
Definitely.
And that doesn't mean just low stakes. That also means like fun games or, low to medium stakes. It's all just about, you're a big fan of kind of knowing what is the correct thing to do and then when to deviate from that to take advantage of the people at the table around you. And whatever stakes you're playing at, that's what poker is all about. So that's been phenomenal. What are some of the videos that you've been working on recently, or what are some new additions to the site? And how do you decide what to bring up to it and update the site with from time to time?
So it comes down to a couple different things. So first of all, I look for kind of like where holes are in the content. I realized that I'd been missing some final table content. So what I've been focusing on most recently are just like final tables and deep runs of my own. Mm-hmm. I've also been building some final table theory content, working with Dara O'Kearney, using some of his study notes and just doing discussions and stuff with him. So that's like where a lot of the work and stuff comes in, and why some of these theory videos take a while to build is I'm not just like, going in and going, oh, hey, this is what it is. I think I'm discussing and learning from some of the best players in the world and using their knowledge and their experience, as well as their, the math and everything else that goes into it, and using that and then taking notes and then studying and improving myself. And then that's how I build new theory content. And then on top of that, some of the new content is just like what I've been up to recently. So in the last month and a half, I've made 3 World Series of Poker final tables. So a lot of the new content has been those final table runs from start to finish. And also, since I've been doing a lot of just studying and stuff myself, some of the newer content is based around what studying I've been doing. So where I've been improving my own game and what I've been really trying to do my best to get a lot better at. So some of the sessions are more focused around, oh, I've just been studying through pots recently, or I've been studying these check raise spots, or I've been studying verse check raise. So then some of the new videos will be about that. And then on top of that, anytime I'm like less busy with grinding live, then I'm going to do more of the group sessions. So then more of those get added as well. But either way, I've been adding, I want to say I've added at minimum 3 to 5 videos every single month since we were created, which is why we're well over 300 videos now. And that includes the theory videos, hand history example videos, one-on-one coaching sessions I've done with streamers, and then of course our somewhat weekly group coaching sessions, depending on my availability. In fact, I wasn't able to do any in October. No, I think I did one in October. But since I was super busy in October, I'm actually doing one pretty much every single week this month. The only exception, I won't do it the week of Thanksgiving, but our next group session is the 9th, then we've got one the 16th, then we got one the 30th. So I'm doing them as consistently as I'm able to, depending on what my schedule looks like. I'll do at least one in December. There's that Big Wins series coming up. And then I'll probably do 3 in January. So I've been trying to get in these sessions as consistently as possible. And just building around my live schedule. So we've always got the group content. And then I'm trying to do a pretty good mix of new styles and different types of content. So trying to keep things fresh, but also doing consistent stuff. Something else as well that we're in the process of building. This has been a decent amount of work as well. So while the group content is great and like while people do enjoy attending the sessions live, rewatching them can kind of be a chore since they're 2 hours in length. But during those 2 hours, when we're doing hand history discussions or people have good questions, there's very, very, very good content in that 2 hours. Most people aren't going to want to sit through this whole thing. So what we're doing is we're going through and breaking apart the group sessions as well as other content and then turning those into bite-sized videos. So there might be like a 2-hour video that might have like 30 minutes of really, really, really good content where I'm just discussing specific spots or people have good questions. And then that way, so now you don't have to watch a 2-hour video. Instead, we just cut out the best 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes, and then they're all bite-sized bits. And then they'll all be organized based off of the type of content it was and that type of stuff. So it might be general theory, might be pre-flop, might be, flop discussion, you name it. So then that way our new section will just be these short, easy to watch videos with videos just constantly being uploaded and consistently being uploaded. So new style of content, but stuff that's already on the site, but we're putting a lot of time and effort into making sure that it's good quality and good for viewers to watch, and also just saving you guys all the time and effort and work of watching the long videos. So it's bite-sized and easy to watch. To me, this is like the type of content that I think is the easiest for almost everyone to digest. Not everyone has enough time to sit through the group sessions. So instead, just cutting out the best parts and making it easily watchable and accessible. To me, that's, really makes learning a lot more easy and accessible just because most people don't have a lot of time. And the nice thing about LPP, about Learn Pro Poker, is our content's easy to watch on your phone, easy to watch while you're on the train or walking or, working out or doing whatever. So that's the other thing, is that making it more bite-sized just makes it more accessible in terms of when you're working on and doing other things. So yeah, I'm excited for this type of content. I hope it's well received. I do think it will be. And the nice thing is that it's already using content that I've built in the past, but we're trying to keep it as recent as possible. I don't want content really from like even more than a handful of months ago. I want it all to be recent because, over the last 6 months, I've improved as a player. I've improved as a coach. If I'm not improving, like if I can't look back, is 6 months from now, I can't look back at now and be like, wow, I was making some mistakes then I'm not doing my job as a professional poker player and as a coach to improve consistently. So I'm trying to keep content that's recent and consistent, and that matches more with where my game is at currently. And then we'll keep adding and updating content. That's the other thing for me with Learn Pro Poker being, yes, something I want to make money off of, but also a passion project for me, is I'm trying to do my best to keep things as up to date as I realistically can. Based off of my many other time commitments and everything else. I essentially grind live poker full time. I still play online when there's all these other schedules and stuff out. I'm working on this content. I've got, Range Trainer Pro that we're building and working on. It's got other stuff going on too. So I'm already very busy. So completely repurposing old stuff or like completely rebuilding old stuff, that I'm probably not really going to do. But this rebuilt, repurposed content and making it digestible and making sure that it's recent and accurate and good, that stuff we will definitely be providing. And to me, I feel as though that's something that sets me apart as like a coach and working on our content, is I'm very upfront about where I've made mistakes, how I'm now working on my game. It is a living, breathing product, and getting direct access to me as well for Discord and everything else. I try to be very accessible as well. I enjoy it a lot, which I guess helps, because a lot of people, when they're doing it just for the money, you get that kind of feeling from them that they don't actually care about it. And I care a lot. I really, really do. And I absolutely love seeing people improve and put up good results too. So it's always great to see some of our students lately have been very, very successful, which is always wonderful, wonderful to see.
Yeah, that's great. And when your friends and the people that you're working with and your students are doing well, the whole community benefits from that. And we all kind of enjoy that positive experience of the success that they're having. A few Rec Poker Wrecking Crew members have been going on a tear recently too, Taylor and Keith and Kim and a few others. And it's just awesome when everybody gets to kind of cheer them on and share in that success, right? I love that. Speaking of which, you mentioned Range Trainer Pro. I know KL Cleaton, who's really the brainchild behind that, is very involved at Learn Pro Poker as well. Back when we started working together, he was doing a lot of your media editing and that kind of stuff. Is he still really involved in that?
Yeah,
I know
he still is our video editor.
Amazing.
He's not cutting the stuff down to our bite-sized content. We hired someone else to do that, but he still does all the major video editing and that type of stuff. It's actually why our most recent on the first, why we didn't get the next part of my 3K final table run, because he's been sick.
Oh no!
Now that he's doing a lot better, he'll be able to. So we'll get that stuff, rolling out as well with our brand new content soon. And he came up with Range Trainer Pro, such a wonderful product, really easy to use. Some of our competition has definitely been passing us in terms of like UI and some other aspects, but we have many, many, many plans to get all cut up in every capacity, features, you name it. There are a lot of really good products out there, and we are definitely going to be one of the best products. It just takes time, money, and effort, and work in progress, just like everything else.
Well, you got the right people on the team for it. There's no doubt about that.
So speaking of which, you guys wanted to discuss 3-bet pots. Yeah,
this is one of these. So we talked about it at the top. The theme of the month at Rec Poker is responding to 3-bets. The last month, the topic was 3-bets from the point of view of the aggressor. So every month, Chris Jones puts this suite of learning material together, and the whole month kind of focuses on that. So I'll just prompt sort of, and actually we've got some comments in the chat here too. We'll get to that in a second. But I'll just prompt you first right off the bat. When someone mentions responding to 3-bets, let's start real abstract. What are kind of like the first things that you think about when it's like, how do I respond to 3-bets? What should we even start by thinking about?
How deep effective are we? Are we in position or out of position? Who is our opponent? Are they loose aggressive? Are they tight aggressive? Are they loose passive? Are they tight passive? Are they really, really tight? Are they very nitty? What history do we have together? Where are we at in the tournament? Are we playing a gash game? Are we, those are the things that I think about. So to me, the most important things, first of all, are how deep effective are we? Where are we at in the tournament? And then who is my opponent? And then positions. So how deep effective are we just always matters by far the most, because it dictates what we can respond with, like how everything, entirely changes our hands, playability and utility. So, if we're really deep effective and a very tight player 3-bets us, well, and we have a hand like 5-6 suited, we might be able to get a little squirrely and find appeal. But if we're 30 big blinds deep effective, it might not matter unless they go too small. Then of course as well, what size they made it. But to me, that's also part of stack. If we min raise and they go, to 8 big blinds, it's going to look wildly different than if we min raise and they go to 5 big blinds. So those types of factors are going to heavily dictate how I'm going to think about and approach the exact situation. So those are, I would say, would be like the main things I'm going to think about and consider. So stacked up, what size they made it. So, what odds are we getting? Are we in position or out of position? And then, of course, any tournament factors. So what type of buy-in, ICM, any history that we have, any player reads that we have, that type of stuff, of course.
And when you, and obviously from a theoretical point of view, there's only, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, there's only 3 ways to respond to a 3-bet. You can fold, you can call, or you can 4-bet. And, you could 4-bet shove, or you could 4-bet to a smaller size. Do you have any kind of general rules or for how to put hands in each of those buckets? Or are there hands that I always 4-bet, or I always fold, or I always call, or is it really such a fluid
pretty much everything is just based around everything is pretty much just based around how deep effective we are and whether we're in position or out of position, because that's going to wildly change everything. Like aces are a really good trap hand, but there are stack depths where ace is like largely 4-bets, or where ace is just rips. Same with like kings, hands like ace king. Like there are stack depths where ace king is just like pure jamming, where ace king is largely calling, where ace king is largely 4-betting. There's like it's so wildly based on the exact spot. It's much easier to just pull it up and look at it, and then from there figuring out that baseline of decision making. And then this is where GTO becomes so important, because if you know what theory looks like in a spot, then adjusting to all the other factors becomes pretty easy.
Interesting. All right, I like that. Chris?
Yeah, Ryan, one of the things that we do as a kind of community is we use a service called Poker Now, and we get a bunch of recreational players together, and they play on this table for about 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I can see all the hole cards. So I record the play, and then basically I look at all the hands where there were 3-bets, so like the previous month we looked at the 3-bets as the aggressors, and then we looked at the spots where people either defended through calls or through a 4-bet. And we really took a long look at sort of one particular hand, and I guess I would sort of like, since this was one that we kind of looked at in depth, I'd sort of like to maybe talk about it a little and see if you had any specific thoughts. So we are in the hijack, and we have Queen Jack of Diamonds. And we are we're fairly deep. This is a simulated early part of a tournament. We're about 80 big blinds effective deep. And so we open Queen Jack of Diamonds. I don't think there's any sort of like, anything controversial there. Small blind 3-bets us fairly large. They 3-bet about 4x. I think we open. I think it was 2.2 open, and I think they went up to 9 big blinds as their 3-bet. We elect to defend. We elect to just call with our Queen Jack of Diamonds.
Yep. So Queen Jack suited here it is both, obviously it's a pure open, and then versus 3-bet it is a pure call. In fact, actually versus 3-bet, we can call as loose as Queen 9 suited is our worst Queen X suited. Our worst King X suited is King 5 suited for pure. You can call some Jack 8. You can call Jack 8 suited pure, 10-7 suited, get some little calls. So here, can I share my screen?
Sure, yeah. A lot of our, and if you're listening to this on audio, if you go to YouTube, you can watch the video version and get a sense of that. You should be able to, just down at the bottom there. Green.
Oh, it says you cannot share screen while the other participant is sharing. So.
Okay, here, no, for it now. I'll just have to remember to share my audio again so I don't blank at the outro music.
Okay, so a lot of this stuff is much easier to just show it visually. This is why, like, training sites and stuff, I try to, at least our content, I try to keep it as visually oriented as possible, just because like abstract discussions, it's just so difficult unless you can actually see what we're talking about, at least for me.
100%.
Being able to have like a good idea of what it actually looks like, and then use it from there as a discussion. So versus 3-bet, here y'all should be able to see this pretty well, but I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so y'all can see this. So when I'm looking at versus 3-bet charts, I'm taking a couple different things into consideration. One sec, I'm actually going to add a little. So one of the main things I always care a lot about is who is this player? So obviously theory here, we're going to look at quick first, but then we're going to also discuss it from a exploitative standpoint. So theory, as you can see here, we get to call pretty loose. We're calling about 19.21% of the time. We're only 4-betting 1.28%, which isn't very often. I want to make sure that this is hijack for small one. Yep. So we're only 4-betting about 1.28%, and we have 0 jams. And of course, the hands that we get 4-bet the most frequently, hands like ace, king, kings, aces. But something that I'm actually a little surprised at how low of ace, king off is a 4-bet. It's just peeling. You know, being in position is pretty powerful. So the other things to really take from this chart is looking at the hands that are these like really marginal decisions. King 8 suited is a partial call. King 7 suited is a partial call. 10-7 suited, even 9-7 suited is folding a little bit. So any of these hands that I see that are like very marginal, very close decisions, instead of partially calling them, I'm actually just going to pure fold them. So my actual calling, like my actual continuing range here, I'm just going to pull up Poker Stove. Instead of it being like all this stuff that you see here, so call it 5%. So GTO is calling like all these, calling like all that stuff. And then it's like some partial continues in here. My actual continuing range, versus someone that I think is playing pure theory, so actually 3-betting us perfectly, is going to look more like this, something more like this. So I'm actually continuing a little bit tighter than the GTO is going to be in like an actual real world situation. And the reason why I'm going, go ahead.
Sorry, because folks are listening at home, you can just see that Ryan's just trimming off the worst kind of King X offsuit, Queen X offsuit, the King 9 suited, just some of those lower pips on those hands, and continuing with a slightly stronger range of more connected, higher rank cards.
So GTO continues 20.5%. In game, I'm probably actually going to continue about 16.5%. So anything that seems like it should be a little close, maybe we should just, avoid it, I'm just going to. And the reason why I'm playing this much tighter than GTO is for a couple different reasons. But the main reason actually is when these charts are built, so they're built using this program called Munker Solver, and you put in your parameters and then you let it run. And then the longer you let it run, the higher degree of accuracy you're going to get based on the parameters that you get. And one of the biggest issues with GTO charts in general is that it doesn't assume that there's any tournament factors at all to be considered. So even though this is like early stages of a tournament, there still is ICM. There still is, the fact that when we take decisions that are very marginal, that they go from being marginally profitable to being in real world situations just not profitable at all. And then on top of that, there's also something else to consider: your own comfort level when continuing in this situation. You're already playing a kind of awkward spot. So do you really want to be making yourself even more awkward by taking some of these decisions that even the bot's like, we could call this, but whatever. And then you're going to go, oh yeah, that's a hand that I really want to play here. When the bot's like uncertain, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. I want to battle hard. I mean, yes, you can use the approach of like, you don't need to be quite this tight. You can put it in, some of like the less marginal ones, maybe play like 17%. But who's actually 3-betting perfectly? So our opponent here is supposed to be 3-betting us. So small blind versus cutoff open range. Okay, so our opponent is when we raise versus hijack, our opponent is supposed to be playing 19.29% of hands, 3-betting 10.5%. And while you're like, 10% 3-bet, that seems pretty reasonable. Like, yeah, they're probably going to be 3-betting us somewhere around then. Are they going to be 3-betting ace 10 suited peer, king 10 suited peer, queen 10 suited peer, 10-8 suited partially, 9-8 suited, 7-6 suited? These are pretty easy ones to hit. But what about that king 8 suited at 23% of the time? Ace 4 suited partially. Are they going to be hitting like pocket 7s and pocket 8s as 3-bets? King jack off, are they partially hitting that as a 3-bet? like their 3-bet range just isn't going to look like GTO is going to.
I'll just say we can actually ask the small blind because it's Rob Washam in this hand. So, so
Hey, Rob.
Rob can tell us if he's actually 3-betting this exactly.
Yeah, we got a head shake from there.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ryan. There's a ton of hands in there that I would probably not 3-bet.
Right.
A ton of hands in there.
So let's say you've got like a pretty good idea of what GTO looks like, and you're trying your best to like emulate it. Maybe you get in the somewhere between the 8 to 12 range, but I doubt you're going to hit a lot of these like exact frequencies. And let's say you are at 8%. If you're at 8% and you're supposed to be at 10%, then this in position calling range, the range that I gave before of what pure GTO was, it was hijack versus small blind, supposed to call 19.21%. Now this GTO number is more like 17%. And then the range that I gave, that 17% is actually the new GTO number. So this is what GTO would look like. But let's say, now this is where the player type starts to matter a lot.
I love this stuff. And Ryan has this up anytime he's doing his coaching session. Just goes to reinforce how important this player typing can be.
Yeah. So anytime you're playing poker, poker, well, yeah, it's a game of strategy, and yeah, it's a game of math and theory, and yeah, it's a game of like all this other stuff. It's at the end of the day, it's a game of people. So like who is your opponent? How are they approaching this game and situation? And then that's going to wildly dictate how we should approach this. So GTO in the past, most people would consider this to be a maniac type player. Oh, 3-betting king 8 suited here. Like, oh, well, you're so crazy. No, this is like just what GTO does. But so they're very loose aggressive. GTO's up here. And while there are a lot of pros these days that kind of fall into this type of category, most opponents tend to be down around here. It's middling aggressive. Middling aggressive tournament poker is a lot easier to play. It's a lot more consistent to play. It's just a much easier approach for the vast majority of people, and it is still very profitable at almost all stakes, with the exception of very difficult games. So most people play between middling aggressive and loose aggressive. And while even if they are on the looser side of loose aggressive, they're still going to miss a lot of those 3-bets that we saw before. So while, yeah, I'm going to be continuing here, while I'm thinking in terms of like, what is this theory approach, I'm mostly focused on who is my opponent and what are they actually doing here? And then that's when I make my decision of, oh yeah, Queen Jack suited, I'm going to call this. Mm-hmm. It's a long-winded way to say, yeah, Queen Jack suited we're calling, but yeah, we need to be thinking in terms of who is our opponent, what does their range look like, and now that we have that information, then what does our range look like? What is our approach going to be because of this information? Okay.
And then let me just take us one step further into post-flop scenario, because this is where I think it starts to get a little complicated, and one where we actually had a lot of good conversation about this hand. So we have this 3-bet, we've called, and the flop comes 10, 8, 4 with one diamond. The 4 is a diamond, and the 10 and the 8 are clubs.
Okay.
So we've flopped a gut shot, and a backdoor flush draw. We've got 2 overs, and our opponent, Mr. Washam, checks to us. And we're starting to sort of wonder how we approach this spot. Is this a time where we want to, we're in position? Do we want to just check back and sort of let this hand play out? We're already just responding to the 3-better's aggression, or do we want to take that check as a sign of weakness and attack with our gut shot and our backdoor flush draw and our couple of overcards?
Okay, so to reiterate for those listening and for those watching, so we open Queen Jack of diamonds from hijack to 2.2 big blinds. Small blind three bets us to 9 big blinds, and 3-better here is Mr. Rob here. So we can actually talk to him about what his range looks like on the flop. And then that'll actually help us give an exploitative way to think about and approach the situation. If we understand why he's checking, then we can actually figure out what our exact best decision is with this exact hand and situation, and actually have a pretty good idea as to how to play in this spot versus a lot of opponents going forward as well. So when they 3-bet us to 9 bigs from the small blind, Rob, as he said, he's probably not hitting a lot of these 3-bets. He's going to be a little bit too tight here. So now on this 10-8-4, so 10 of clubs, 8 of clubs, 4 diamonds. We have 2 overs, a gutter ball to the absolute nuts. Pretty good flop for us, and we're in position. So this is going to be a really good spot for us overall. So total pot size is going to be, I guess, 20 big blinds, 9 plus 9 plus 1 from the big blind, and then 1 from the empty. Okay, so pot size is 20 bigs, and then we have 71 backs. We're about 3.5 to 1 pot size bets effective. Okay, so that's the spot.
Yep, that's the spot.
So this can be a little bit awkward. I'm actually gonna reshare my screen. We can look at this a little bit from a GTO perspective, and then we can look at this from a exploitative approach after that.
We invite Ryan on the show every once in a while for an interview, but it's really we just want a coaching session. We're going to get a coaching session from Ryan Laplante here. This is great. I love it. I don't know if you're watching online, you can see some hardware just off to Ryan's right on the table. It shows you what he knows what he's talking about.
Got so close to number 2.
I know
4th place finish in a 3K WSOP final table this series. Lost queens to 3s all in pre for essentially chip lead and to be 300. So pretty close. And then I had a 5th and an 8th as well, both of which I had pretty good opportunities. Okay, so unfortunately RTP, I don't think we have this exact spot for 3-bet. So right now our database hasn't grown much in the past couple of months. And the reason why actually is we're working on blind versus blind solves. And blind versus blind solves take a very, 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 very long time. You're like, oh, hey, Ryan, if I plug in your tree and hop on, PO solver and I run a spot, it's only going to take me like 40 minutes at most, 50 minutes. I got a really good computer. Why is this taking you 2 months? Well, when you multiply 40 times 1,755, which is the amount of flops there are, and then, so 40 times 1,755. Then you divide that by 60 for hours. And then you divide that by 24 for days. So all of a sudden, that's 2 months just to run one spot. And I actually think these solves take longer than 40 minutes. Our tree is very, very in-depth. So once these spots get done, then we'll flesh out these 80 big blind 3-bets, and then we'll start working on some of the deeper stack spots. The deeper stack it gets, the longer the solves take. Right. So we actually don't have the spot at 80 bigs, but we do have it at 60 big blinds, which should be similar-ish enough. It'll give us a good overall idea as to what this spot could look like at 80, and then we can kind of, break it apart from there. So this is hijack versus small blind 3-bet. So
I think that's single raise.
Whoops.
Yeah, there we go.
Hijack versus small blind 3-bet. There you go. You are correct. And then we're going to look at 10, 8, and like I said, all 1,755 flops. It's a lot of flops.
Yeah, folks, you're kind of seeing behind the curtain here, Range Trainer Pro. This is how you can use the tool to select the scenarios that you're trying to test for.
10, 8, 4. Cool. So on the solver, our 10, 8, 4 is just 10 of spades, 8 of spades, 4 of hearts. So going forward, we're going to act as though we have.
Yeah, we're saying we have hearts basically.
Yeah. All right. So we have Queen Jack of Hearts. Flop is 10, 8, 4, 2 clubs, 1 heart. Hijack for small blind 3-bet. And then we're going to slightly shift this, but this will give us a good idea. So the main thing I actually wanted to look at was small blind's decision making. Because if we know what small blind's decision making looks like from a theory standpoint, then we can go, is Rob here going to be tighter here? Is Rob checking more often or less often? Is he block betting more frequently? Is he choosing larger bets more frequently? Like, what is his approach going to be and why? And then that'll dictate what our approach should be. So actually, GTO does check here a decent amount of time out of position. The aggressor checking as a 3-better happens. It happens a decent amount out of position. In position doesn't happen quite as frequently. And it doesn't happen quite as frequently when we're this deep effective. Usually when you're this deep effective, the 3-better is going to c-bet very, 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 very often, especially in position. And the reason why is, so when the small blind 3-bets and, they get called, the small blind is at a very, very, very large range advantage. And this is actually why the previous discussion matters so much. If you know what pre-flop looks like, if you know what their pre-flop range looks like, you know what your pre-flop range looks like, then you know who's at range advantage, who hits what boards, and then why they should be doing something starts to make a lot more sense. So they are supposed to check here a decent amount of time, 24%, which or 26%, which I'm actually a little surprised by. I would have guessed that it would have been a little bit lower than this. If I had to guess, like without looking at this, I would have said maybe they check 15% of the time or 20% of the time. But it does make sense that they check 26%. And the reason why they probably check such a high percent is let's look at, so this was in positions calling range, this chart here. And as we can see here, look at a lot of these hands that just connect with this board texture in some capacity. So much of their range hits this. Look, they have 10s peer. So we have 10s peer, 8s peer, 4s peer. So we can have all sets like very happily. We still have aces. We still have kings in our range. We have queens and jacks almost peer. So we have all the really, really good hands. And while obviously the 3-better also has a lot of good hands. So 3-bet's range essentially looks like, here we can actually look at this on 60. So this is what the 3-better's range looks like. So while the 3-better does have, sets occasionally, they don't have 10s very often. They only have 8s occasionally. They don't have 4s at all. So this is like trying to figure out why GTO is doing something will start to give you an idea as to why you should be doing something. So Rob here, when he does check, he's actually kind of in line with GTO with a lot of his decision making. Maybe he might not match up exactly as to why he's checking, or I doubt he's like, used an RNG device and like dice rolled it and all of a sudden this is why he's checking. But, if we can have a good idea as to what GTO does, we can start to figure out why he's doing it. And then that gives us a good idea as to our approach. So let's say there is this check here, which happened in real life as well. What is Queen Jack supposed to do? I have no idea. If you told me he was supposed to, check back with their Queen Jack of Hearts or bet with their Queen Jack of Hearts peer, I would have believed you utterly. So the fact that it's a split decision is not surprising at all. So why might Queen Jack of Hearts bet here? So Queen Jack with his backdoor flush draw bet. Well, it blocks pocket queens, it blocks pocket jacks, it blocks, the rare Jack 10, Queen 10 combos. It could also just maybe get Ace King to fold immediately. So let's actually see if we bet small what Ace King does, or what some of these high card hands do. So Ace King does occasionally fold. You do get some better hands that fold. Look at King Queen here, largely folding.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it has some of the back, unless it has like a spade. So this backdoor high flush draw. It's getting these ace highs to fold. It's also going to start applying leverage on a lot of different turn cards. But why might Queen Jack of Hearts check back? Well, when we do bet, what percentage of the time are we getting check raised? What percent of the time are we just like getting pushed off this equity? Check raise is 35%. And when that does happen, this Queen Jack with backdoors, it does continue. So we're not getting immediately pushed off equity, but we're now getting maybe we see less river cards, or maybe we, the turns that we do hit, maybe when we hit them, we're less likely to be able to continue with a lot of other parts in our range. So while Queen Jack works here as a bet, it also works pretty well as a check back. So, and the thing is anytime a decision is very close theory, now starts coming down to Rob. Rob, why did you check? I actually don't want to know your hand. I just want to know, like, when you checked in game, what were you generally thinking?
I was generally thinking that my opponent was going to bet because of who he was.
Which means, what should we be doing
with anything?
So then what should we be doing with our Queen Jack here, everybody?
Well, if he wants us to bet, we should be checking behind with it.
Check. So when we're in game here, as a person with Queen Jack here, we need to be thinking about who our opponent is. So when Rob checks this flop, do we see that as being a normal thing to do? Like, would he see this flop and go, I should be checking here a lot? When the answer is no, then you need to try to figure out why he's checking. Is he checking because he's like worried about what we might have? Is he worried about his hand strength? Is he, is he thinking about what we're going to do? Is he just thinking about his cards? A lot of players, when they're making decisions, so you have like different levels of poker players. I would say most people fall under, like most fun players fall under level 0, which is they're just playing their hands. They're not thinking in any other capacity other than I have cards. That's usually like a level 0 player. Now, recreational players that maybe have like some experience or playing a little bit but haven't done any studying yet. 0.2 is I have cards. Maybe you have cards. And then 0.5 is you have cards. Okay. And then level 1 really is I have cards, you have cards. So level 1 is what I would consider a lot of recreational players that do some studying. Play some on the side, but maybe not like a lot of studying, and maybe you don't take it too seriously. So you guys are definitely past this because you are, you're actually putting an active effort and you're working hard on your game and you're trying to improve. That's definitely going to be more let's battle. Let's think about how we're approaching these situations. Let's, think about how we're strategically, building our ranges and making good decisions. So most players fall under this, which is just, I have cards. Rob's obviously past this. He's obviously at least level 1, but probably going past that since he studies and works on his game and improves a lot. And then this is where poker starts to get a lot of fun because the next level is just, GTO bot equals just studying a lot. So pro players who really actively work hard on their games. So since we know Rob is somewhere in here, then it comes down to how we think he's going to approach and play this game in general. Usually anyone that's going to be in any of these categories, this is where I'm thinking about what type of player they are. That's where that GTO, the player types chart, this is where the player types chart comes in. Because the level 3 players, they're all fairly loose aggressive. They all have like fairly similar stats. You can have a pretty good idea as to the type of studying they've done and approach they have. They all play pretty similarly, so that chart doesn't really matter because it's not really as much of a thing. For here, this is where it starts to matter a lot. And this is where our perception of Rob matters a ton, the history that we have. The fact that this is early stages means we're going to be able to make, some different types of approaches. And since, it's obviously not a high stakes tournament as well, we might be able to make some other different types of approaches too. But what type of, how do most people view Rob? So I guess is a good question because I obviously I've not really played much poker with any of you guys. So I guess who had the Queen Jack suited here?
It's actually somebody in our audience, which I won't dox him, but on YouTube his name's Evil Roy.
Okay, so I guess have Rob and Evil Roy played a decent amount together? I guess that's a first question. Yes.
Yes, definitely.
And Rob knows, so Rob obviously knows Evil Roy is very loose aggressive, but how does Evil Roy know Rob?
How would you,
I mean, probably pretty well because he's been.
No, I'm saying as a player, Rob knows that Evil Roy is very loose aggressive. Like, what is Rob perceived to be? Rob, are you considered to be tight aggressive, loose aggressive? Study, but often tighter. Okay, so Rob is maybe seen as being that middling aggressive player type, which, as I said before, it's by far the easiest to play. If you've done a decent amount of studying, a lot of people revert to that because it's the easiest to think about and approach situations. So when a somewhat tighter but still loose 3-better checks a board texture that they checks in a situation that they know is favorable to them, that's to me is when alarm bells should be going off somewhat. Because so let's say we thought, maybe Rob was a very loose 3-better, and then when he gets called, he plays more, tight, worried because this imposition player is all of a sudden calling. This is a very dynamic board texture. Then, him checking shouldn't be too concerning. But I think Roy should be aware of the fact that when Rob checks here, that there should be alarm bells going off. So then that's why I would check this back. Anytime I'm going, hey, why did someone do that? And I'm kind of confused by it, I just assume they're really, really strong when I think they should be doing something else the vast majority of the time. I played a hand from 1600 MSPT event 2 days ago, where a very well-known opponent who was a pre-flop aggressor opened and then checked on I defended big blind, and then they checked on Jack 4-4 two-tone. So Jack 4-4 with a flush draw. Why are they checking back there? They're supposed to be pure betting. So when he checks back there, I know that he has a hand that has a decent amount of showdown, probably isn't going to fold to my aggression, and if anything, is probably trapping a pretty high percentage of the time, especially as we hadn't played, much against each other before in the past. A tiny bit, but not a lot. So I knew that he had a very, very, very strong hand there. This is a little bit different of a situation in that, Rob could realistically have a hand like ace king and just be like, wow, I hate this flop with a passion, and then just check it because of that. A lot of people, though, when they're kind of uncomfortable with hands like ace king, as you can see here, ace king largely just bets. And the reason why ace king largely just bets, it's a much easier way to play it as a general rule of thumb. GTO obviously doesn't care about that really, but it's not a bad way to think about it, because when you're betting here, you're not just betting with ace king. You're also betting with aces and kings and your set of tens and your set of eights and your nut flush draws and your, over cards with straight draws and everything else. Like, you have a lot of very strong hands, and your range is very well protected on a lot of turn cards. And then when you do bet and they do call and the turn is something that's pretty good for you. So let's say the turn is, say, a 3 of spades, which is a very good card in a lot of different ways for your hands. And all of a sudden your ace king, even if you don't have a spade in it, but obviously if you do have one, it makes a lot better. This is a card you get to just keep repping on, keep betting on. And that just makes your approach and your thought process in general a little bit easier from a GTO perspective, but also from just a thinking about an approaching perspective. So when I see someone make a check like this, I'm going to be fairly concerned. And I think since you guys have this amount of history, Roy should have been fairly concerned as well and should have checked back.
And so, just to kind of recap this, because I think this is where the conversation landed us, is when you have these sort of like controversial spots, or it's not even controversial spots, but let's call them spots that have mixed approaches, where you can bet or you can check here, and either one can be right. One of the things that you're advocating is not necessarily like, let's roll a dice and see if we get a low or a high number. It's more like, let's really think about the situation and our opponent. And that's really a better way to decide in these sort of mixed situations rather than some sort of randomizer. Yeah.
So the only time I'm ever using a randomizer is when I'm playing against an opponent who I think is playing a very, very, very theory-oriented approach. So over the past couple of weeks, I've been playing versus Chance Corneth a decent amount. And he and I played some very interesting hands against each other. But most of the weird, interesting parts of my decisions were all RNG based. Like I played a hand where I check raised 6-4 on 8-5-3 rainbow, barrel the turn 8, and then triple barrel jam the river. And every single one of my decisions was me just rolling a high number and following through on what I knew was a good triple barrel spot. That's it. It had nothing to do with like our history or anything else. And the reason why, especially for a player like him in particular, where he is so good at reading people and reading situations and understanding game flow and those types of factors, okay, that's where I'm just going to go, okay, what does my hand usually do? Or what should I be doing here with this type of hand? Oh, I should just be doing this. Okay, I'm just going to do that. Oh, I should be occasionally mixing, but maybe I should be leaning towards aggression. Okay, how high of a number do I roll? Oh, I roll a really high number. Okay, sweet. We're going to be aggressive. Oh, I roll a really low number. Well, I'm normally aggressive here, but since I rolled a low number, now I'm going to check it instead. And then for me, it makes it a much easier way for me to think about and approach decisions versus him, because instead of trying to like play this complex leveling or anything else versus someone who's arguably one of the best players on the planet at it, instead I'm just playing pure theory. And then that makes my decisions much easier and also makes his decisions much harder, because he can't just go, oh, Ryan's doing this for whatever reason. Nope, this is just like, I'm just playing this hand in a very theory-oriented way. Now, versus almost every other opponent that I played versus, a couple other exceptions, it was all about who is this opponent? What is the situation? How am I trying to exploit them here? Do I think they're too tight here? Do I think they're too loose here? What do I think their decision means? So the vast majority of time, I'm thinking like that. In fact, the vast majority of time, I'm not even thinking about my range at all. All I'm thinking about is, who is my opponent? What types of hands do they have here? Why do I think they have these types of hands here? And then how does my hand perform against that? So this queen jack of hearts spot is, to me, very interesting in that while it is a split decision from a theory standpoint, I think from a what we know standpoint, it is purely a check, and that betting is a very large mistake. But if we instead, like, if you guys didn't give me that other information, you just told me that, that Rob checked and Roy bet, I've been like, yeah, it's probably a fine bet. But now that we have more information, now we know why we should or shouldn't be doing something. And this is just like my theoretical and then logical breakdown of the situation. A lot of situations in poker, especially ones where, GTO says you can do one thing or another, most of the time, a lot of it just comes down to trying to break it apart from a human perspective and then using that perspective to break it down logically. So to me, the human perspective is, why did Rob check this? And then what is his opinion on what we're going to do? Oh, he thinks we're going to stab here a lot, so then clearly we need to check back more. Or, oh, Rob, when he 3-bets and he sees his board, I saw that he was just like hated this spot. Okay, now we get to bet here. So if we get other information, then that's going to shift and adjust our approach to spots. In fact, I have hand discussions and stuff all the time with friends of mine, especially in these live tournaments that we've been playing lately, where binds can be somewhat high, but you can get a very wide range of player types. A lot of decisions that people might a lot of decisions that people might be making in spots, I might think they're good or not entirely based off of why they did it. Not even, they could have done something I'm like, oh yeah, GTO does that all the time, sweet. But if they tell me, oh, I did it for this reason, and it was just some type of weird, like, very esoteric reason, I was just like, that doesn't really make sense. If in fact, there was actually a hand that a good friend of mine played in Win 1600 somewhat recently, where he did something and I thought it was I thought it was completely fine until he told me why. And I told him particularly that logic was fucking awful and he needs to stop thinking like that. It was bad. It was bad. And like, it was actually a spot where the reason why, so like I think he like 4-bet jammed jacks in a spot, or no, he like, oh, this is what it was, is he 4-bet a lot larger in a situation than what he thought should be. And his reason being was because he was like trying to get more folds to make the hand easier to play. And I was just like, that's a terrible reason. It was jacks, obviously. Everyone loves jacks.
It's always jacks.
Yeah, it's always jacks. And I was just like, you're in position, like, or actually, no, he was, I want to say maybe he was out of position. So it was a really good 4-bet spot, and he was supposed to 4-bet. But like 4-bet a size where when your opponent can calls and keeps his range really wide. And if you're 4-betting larger to induce jams, it's great. It's amazing. Love it. Because then we get to snap it off and we're printing a lot of money. But when we're 4-betting larger to then fold, it doesn't really, you're just like giving away equity and not trusting yourself. And that's terrible. That's awful. Like, if you're playing this game for a living and, you're doing all this studying, you work really hard in your game, you should trust yourself. You should trust your reads. You should, be willing to take and push good equity and then be put into awkward and difficult spots and then take it post-flop in battle. Like, that's why we play this game for a living, not to like have easy decisions and to, make the easy decision. No, we're playing this game to make the most money we possibly can, the most EV we possibly can, make the best decisions we possibly can. Now for y'all, it comes down to like, to me, a lot of playing poker very, very well for yourself is about making decisions that you personally are comfortable with. So let's say, there is an open and you are supposed to 3-bet a hand like King 7 suited and you're not comfortable with it. Don't 3-bet. It's not that big of a deal. Like, yes, you should be willing to 3-bet like there. Don't use King 7 suited. Use King 10 suited. Use King Jack suited. Use Ace 10 suited. Oh, Ace 10 suited isn't really a 3-bet there. Who cares? Still a pretty good 3-bet bluff candidate. Like, you don't need to like all of a sudden start at GTO. Ease into certain decisions. Ease into like making these types of decisions for yourself. And then as your game naturally progresses and improves, then you're going to be a lot more comfortable in some of these more difficult and awkward spots. And that'll make you play much, much, much better. And putting yourself out there will make you play a lot better too. So by doing like the practice things on Play Now and Chris being able to see everything and discussing these spots, That's how you improve a lot as a player. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are passionate and care about the game and want to have these open and frank discussions, even if they're wrong, it doesn't matter. Them being wrong can help you better think about and approach something and understand it much better in your own way. And that can be a very good thing too. Some of the ways that I've best improved myself as a player is when someone tells me something, that I just strongly disagree with, and then we can have this conversation and I can better understand why I disagree with them and why I think this approach is going to be somewhat better. Or they say something that I disagree with at first, then we have this conversation and all of a sudden I go, wait, I'm wrong. You're right. It's amazing. Those are the best moments. There was a conversation I'd had with a friend of mine a while ago, and it's a very heated conversation. And it was a pretty basic spot that I thought was a very simple, very straightforward, let's ram in money as much as possible spot. And he actually convinced me that it was the other way. And while I agreed with him for certain situations, I disagreed with him for the exact spot that we were in. So even though I disagreed with the exact hand, I actually learned from it because it gave me a better way to approach other situations that are very similar. And I just wasn't doing that. And to me, that was a big way as to how I shifted. It wasn't even just that one hand. It was my entire approach to certain field types and certain player types. And that was a big thing from one conversation that we had. These small things, these small moments can really open up your game and really make you think about and play differently and improve a lot as a player too.
Yeah, when I was coming up in the game, I learned on my own. Mostly I read books, I would listen to podcasts and watch videos, but it was joining a group like Rec Poker and sharing my ideas with other people. Even having to defend your ideas, you think about them in a more active way than you would otherwise. And of course, it's a much faster road to success when you can actually hear other people's ideas too. Not every freaking idea has to originate inside your own brain. You mentioned sort of this seminar that Chris runs every month, this play along seminar on Poker Now. I mean, it's one of the things that I think I'm most proud of here at Rec Poker, where premium members can get together, put their game on tape, warts and all. And then actually, Darrow Kearney also joins us for that every month and provides his own feedback and breakdown into how our premium members could have played those spots better. And I mean, you don't get that kind of experience just working on your own, studying on your own, not sharing your ideas, not sharing your kind of pain and embarrassment of having played things wrong. Like, I love it when you said, you got to find out that you were wrong about something and how great that is. People come into this with a mindset of, I don't want to be wrong because being right is better than being wrong. Well, how do you think you get right? How do you think you learn? It's by being wrong less, finding out that you're wrong and turning it around.
So the way that I would view study on your own, I would view that the same way as going to the gym or going on a jog or, eating healthy, your own core cardio and body health and that type of stuff. You need that stuff to be an athlete, and it needs to be on point, and you need to put in the work and you need to really grind through it, and no one can grind through it for you. You must do it yourself. And then the whole discussions with other people, the working together, the improving, the growing together, to me that's like going to practice as a team, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, soccer, whatever you name it, or even doing something that's more self-focused, like art, going to art classes and learning from a teacher and learning from someone and having conversations with other artists and seeing other artists work, that stuff's really, really, really important in growing your art. Or for, going to practice, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be, you could have the most talent in the planet, but if you don't have someone that helps you hone that talent and helps you improve and grow, Michael Jordan's not Michael Jordan without each coach and each other player that he had help him grow and reach that potential of his. It's true for every athlete. They need that, sense of community and people around them to help them grow. And to me, that's true for poker. That's very, 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 very true for poker. I actually don't know a single top player that can say, oh, I did this entirely on my own. I, never spoke strategy or theory with other people. I can't think of a single one. I can't think of a single one that would even come close to fitting that bill. Yeah, I really can't. Can you think of a single player that was like, oh, I did this largely on my own? I mean, even some of the guys that I know have been kind of came out of nowhere, still were surrounded by some of the planet's best players. We're still very well known in their communities. Guys like Limitless, guys like, you name it, some of the best players on the planet were surrounded by some of the other great players, or, came up through some of the, their communities. I can't think of a single American player that's near the top that wasn't surrounded with some of the best minds in the game and industry, and had that sense of community to help build them and grow them. Now, I would not be the player I am today without the backers that I've had for the last 6 years, with all the friends and stuff that I've made, without poker forums and Twitter and you name it. I wouldn't be the player without them, without a doubt. So to me, while studying and stuff's really important, and reading books and going to coaching sites and doing these things is really important, if you're not surrounding yourself with other people to talk to and learn from and exchange ideas from, you're not going to be, one of the best, or even be very good. You can be decent, but to truly unlock your own potential, you need to really put in the work in every capacity, not just, not just grinding through GTO charts and looking at post-flop sims. You need to have good conversations and surround yourself with like-minded, passionate people.
I love it. Well, speaking of like-minded people, I'm going to roll through some of the comments here in the YouTube chat. And you've been so generous with your time, Ryan. I know we're going to let you go shortly, but right off the top of the bat, aside from Phil making fun of me, which is sort of a usual occurrence here, Jack LaRue says, Ryan, loved your interview on the Heart of Poker with Kara Scott. And Siddhartha Sudunagunta agrees, says that was a great episode. Phil says he wasn't going to make it live tonight, but Ryan's too good to pass up. Had to come by and get some coaching from the man himself. Ben asks, do you think they'll make the 15 million guaranteed down in the December tournament that you were talking about?
I think they'll play it pretty comfortably. You can play one entry per flight, which I will do so if needed. But yeah, I think they'll get there. I think there's a lot of hype around it. I think WPT is doing a really good job of promoting it, giving out all these packages and running all these satellites that are overlaying by tons. I think they're doing a really good job advertising it. I think everyone knows about it, and everyone loves the Wynn. I mean, the Wynn's one of the best ran poker rooms in the country. Well, honestly, in the world, it's one of the best ran rooms I've ever played at. Played a lot of different places, so I think they'll do an amazing job with it too, and I think everyone knows that. So I think it'll get there, and I think it'll. If I had to take an over/under on a line, I would say 1900.
Cool. Philip Razor here says, I really love Ryan's instant Twitter quizzes. Yeah, me too, man. So we were just saying earlier, Protential, you want to reach that. Ryan's Twitter handle is at ProtentialMN, and he's very generous with his time. He responds to a lot of people's replies and comments, and he puts out a lot of great learning material and hand analysis quizzes in real time that you can kind of choose your own adventure of how to play the poker hands that he's playing, get inside his head a little bit. So I encourage people, definitely go and check that out. There's some talk about 3 and 4 betting here. Joe Coolis, great point. Yeah, stop 4 betting with Jack 4 offsuit. I mean, it's hard. How can we do that in the game today? It's impossible to avoid doing that.
Awesome.
Another comment from Joseph Coolis here says, or a question really, says, one great aspect of Rec Poker is the group designed to advocate for women. Do you feel that the LGBTQ community needs a similar advocacy in poker to recruit new players that they feel safe to play?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would definitely help some. I mean, marginalized groups in general, it can be very difficult to enter into poker. Poker is very much a boys club mentality. I mean, any pursuits that tend to be very aggressive and very competitive, but also financially motivated, makes it a lot harder for marginalized groups to be a part of it. Women on average make a lot less money. They're a lot more likely to be take care of their kids and do everything else. So it's why you don't really see a lot of younger women in poker very often. Honestly, the average age of women that I see in poker tends to be a lot older because their kids are out of the house. They've had their successful careers and lives. Then they have the time and money to actually be able to compete. So that's always going to be the systemic issues that we have in our society just makes it a lot harder for these groups to compete. That being said, poker being more welcoming in general also makes things a lot easier. So actually Run It Up was a really, really, really good place for people to feel a lot more welcome and open. Jason Somerville also being openly gay, he always had a very welcoming atmosphere. And then the Run It Up events, at least the one that I got to go to the very last one. That we didn't know it was going to be the last one, but
You're right.
COVID and everything. And I saw more gay people. I saw more just like, than of any I've ever been to by a very large margin. More women, more, you name it, everything. It was amazing. And it's such a welcoming and opening group of people. And also the fact that it was lower stakes as well also made it a lot more, accessible and approachable for more people too. It's a very friendly, fun atmosphere. And then it made it a much more welcoming atmosphere in general. Generally, when I'm playing like anytime I'm playing like binds like 600 and higher, you generally don't really see too much of the more aggressive conversations or things like that at the table. Also, people's tolerance for things like that tends to be very, very low as well. So while I've found higher stakes poker to be very open and welcoming in terms of anyone can play and nobody really cares, and the few people that do make those types of comments generally aren't really welcomed in much of a capacity. It's the high binds make it not very accessible for many people. So higher stakes poker, unfortunately, is just going to look, kind of very similar to what it is. And it's going to be very difficult for marginalized groups to, break their way into it. That being said, I do think, as our society changes overall, I do think poker will continue to change and grow with it. And one of the nice things I've noticed about poker as well is it tends to be, just poker is a very, if you can sit down and play, you can kind of do it. At least tournaments are, which is part of the reason why I love them so much. So poker's always been a little bit more progressive in a lot of different ways, a lot more open in a lot of different ways. And to me, that's always been one of the things that I've really appreciated and enjoyed about it. And I expect that to continue going forward. So I think things will get a lot better, and I would like to see a little bit more inclusive things happen. But I do think we as a society of poker players are making large strides towards it. And I think things like women's event are definitely still needed, very much so required in terms of helping grow the game and industry. And I think a lot of the things like people like Nadia Magnuson, like giving away seats to things like that, I think are incredibly great to see. And I love to see more of it. There are a lot of really good female focused groups as well. Poker Power, I know, is one of the largest female groups. I know they're growing a lot, and I know they're very welcoming. So if you're someone that feels as though you need to have that more type of welcoming atmosphere, I mean, I know Rec Poker as well. You guys are open, accepting to everyone too, which is always amazing to see as well. So if, Poker Power, Rec Poker, to me, groups like this really help the game change and grow and are very, very, very much so needed.
Yeah, I like that. I was lucky enough to be a guest on the chip race recently, and one of the things we talked about was how just the rest of the poker world needs to do a better job of ostracizing assholes. And just like you say, kind of like the high stakes is already a place where people don't kind of tolerate abuse at the table or that kind of thing. That's something that we can bring to every poker table and just have a more inclusive and friendly atmosphere there. That's certainly something that we would all benefit from.
Definitely.
So we got a comment, another one from Phil. He likes that the colors in Range Trainer Pro have a lot of black and yellow. Being a Steelers fan myself, I can't argue with that. Josh Campbell says to only 4-bet Jim, your odds go up of winning the hand. That's not bad advice at all. Phil and Jack say the ICM stuff doesn't come up for them because they only play early in tournaments. So it's not really an issue for them nearly as much. Siddhartha says he can recommend Ryan's LPP site. His game has come a long way since he started joining. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and I would encourage people to come. There's a lot of joking about the different levels of poker and that sort of thing. It is a lot of fun here, and I'm glad we started doing this live and getting a chance to engage with some of these people. So Ryan, before we let you go, is there anything else that people should know? If they want to join the site, they can go to learnpropoker.com. If they want to check you out on Twitter, it's at PotentialMN. Range Trainer,
in Minnesota.
Yep, that's right, for the local connection here. Range Trainer Pro is the great training tool that you and KL have put together. What else are you interested in? What else do you? Where can people reach you? Are those the big three? And what am I missing?
Yep, Twitter is by far the best spot. Also, I know Rec Poker here on this video. They have a link below. Click it. It's their affiliate link. Takes you to both sites. support them by supporting us, and it's a win-win all around. I know you guys should have discount codes and stuff as well. So
Yeah, we
definitely
do.
be using those as well, so you can save some extra money and help them out, provide this amazing content. Yeah, that's about it. I should be doing some more hand histories and polls and stuff coming up. Unfortunately, November is going to be largely online grind, studying, actually having some off days. Like tomorrow, I'm just going to play video games and do a board game night with people and work. So I'm looking forward to that. Most of my next month is kind of like that. But I will be playing a 2500 later this month. And then December is a lot of win stuff. So hand history polls and stuff will be coming back. If you're looking forward to more LPP content, group session this Wednesday at noon Pacific Standard Time. And we'll do a couple more of them this month as well. And the one on at least this Wednesday, I'm going to make it wide open to everyone. All you have to do is be on our email list. So free members and stuff, everyone can get access to it. I'll make some tweets about it. So check it out.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to let you go. There's been the YouTube chat is just blowing up here. You're well loved by the Rec Poker community. Let me say that, Ryan.
Thank you.
So I'm looking forward we'll have you back one time soon on the forums edition of the podcast, and we can really get into some strategy.
Thank you very much for having me on. Really do appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe and healthy out there, and best of luck at the table. See ya.
Cheers, man. Oh, that's great. I love when we get to have Ryan Laplante on the show. It really is a coaching session, not just for our members, but for our Wrecking Crew members as well, and our listeners. And I will say, so if you're listening to this, I'll put a link in the show notes that you can sign up for Learn Pro Poker or Range Trainer Pro using the Rec Poker discount code. And we would love it if you do that, because it sort of tells them that we sent you. And then they help us out. We help them out. It's a really nice way to help everybody involved. We've got some other, I didn't get a chance to get into this, but thank you, Phil, for your nice comments here. This has been so great. Got some hearts in there. Martha, amazing show tonight. Ben Enslow's been active in here. He loves making mistakes so he can write forum posts. Yes, exactly, Ben. That's it, man. And I see the RRRCCC knows what's up. They're already typing the word food bank into the chat. So let's get that going now, folks. If you want to win a prize this week, we're going to do a free month at Rec Poker will be the prize to give away. You can come and join our premium members all month. So start typing the words food bank into the chat now. We'll just run through the home game results, and then we'll do the draw. A couple of things here. Let me see. Yeah, run it up. A lot of people would have loved to get to that. Thank you, Eric Anderson. Yeah, if you're listening, smash that like button. Please do subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the channel, give us a like. It helps out a lot. Stuart Carriage says, thanks, Ryan. I'll make sure to pass that along. So that he gets that message, Stuart. Thank you for your support in the chat there. So
I love how much of a nerd he is, and I mean that as a huge compliment.
Yeah,
like anyone who can play video games and board games on their day off, I just love it.
Yeah, he's truly well suited to what he's doing in this world, isn't he? I mean, it's just such a natural thing for him. He's steeped in games. He's just that's his whole life, his games.
I love too, like, we've asked and we have great guests, and we ask them, give us some of your thoughts about 3-betting, and they're like, well, you should do it sometimes and do it sometimes. And he's like, let's get into this, let's dig in. We're getting in. So like even in the middle of a podcast interview, he's just ready to dive deep.
Yep. No, it's amazing. And so if folks if you're not listening to this live, or if you're watching on the website, if you go to rec.poker/resources, you can find a bunch of discount codes and links for Ryan stuff and KL Cleaton's and a bunch of other amazing training sites. Our Learning with Partners program has grown a lot over the years. So it's not just Learn Pro Poker. Obviously, they're a flagship part of what we're doing here. But there's a lot of other people out there that would love to work with our recreational premium members, and it's not just premium members. It's anyone who loves poker. Go to rec.poker/resources and find some ways to improve there. So yeah, let's do the home game results first. So every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern, the fun folks over at Fun Country Poker are hosting a 9-player sit and go, which is available only to Rec Poker Premium members. Every week, there's a 9-player tournament. It's free to enter, and the winner gets $25. So I know you Rec Poker Premium members, it only costs $15 a month. And there's one of these $25 free tournaments every week. So I shouldn't have to do the math for you. There's an avenue to profit right there if you have what it takes. And you only have to beat 8 other Rec Poker Premium members. So I'd encourage you to go and give that a try. 2 weeks ago, our winner was Jim Gibson. We got a chance to shout them out last week. And this week's winner was Greg Clem, our own in-house panel interviewer. Greg's a great premium member. He's been active in the seminars, and I think he's going to enjoy these Thursday night online play-in hangs brought to you by Fun Country because he's just printing over there so far. Speaking of online play-in hangs, every Tuesday night at 9 Eastern, our premium members get together in a Zoom call, not unlike this one, and we just hang out while we play in the home game online. We run 10 Play Money home games every week. Most of them are at 9 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. We have a few at different times throughout the day for our international members. But every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, premium members get together to just hang out and have fun while we're playing. If you're a new premium member, this is a great place to come and dip your toe in, decide, how free you want to be and like how engaged and how involved you want to be. The stakes are very low because it's mostly a social occasion. And we get some fun guests showing up every once in a while. Kevin Mathers, Kev Math, is basically a fixture there every Tuesday night. I think he's found his people. Kevin's another Wrecking Crew member who just loves spreading the word about Rec Poker and this great game that we all love. But we're opening it up on the 4th Tuesday of every month. We're actually opening up the OPA, the online planning, we call it the OPA, to not just premium members, but community members. So if you go to rec.poker and sign up for a free community account, all it takes is an email address and a smile, and you can come join us on this 4th Tuesday of the month in the Tuesday night online playing hang. So the next one that's coming up is November 22nd. We're recording this on November 7th. So you've got a couple of weeks anyway to circle that November 22nd. Go sign up for a free community account at rec.poker, and then come join me and Kim and Rob and Chris and the gang. It's usually a good showing there on Tuesday nights. You never know who's going to be there, but you always know it's going to be a good time. So come and check that out. Yeah, boy, we're still blowing up here in the chat. This is fantastic. Josh Campbell asked, what's the topic for tonight's Forums podcast? We're actually going to do an episode strictly on this topic here, responding to 3 bets as the theme of the month. And then we're also going to take one post from the Rec Poker forums, which we do every time, and talk about that on the show as well. So that's going to be a fun one. All our premium members are welcome to come join us in the booth for those forums editions of the podcast. So let me see the last home game winners. We are not joined by the one and only John Somsky tonight. He's not feeling well. So I'm going to sit in and try and roll through our home game results for the past week, starting with Wednesday, November 2nd. This was the monthly No Limit Hold'em series, won by Marbles Jam, who is no stranger to the winner's circle, so congratulations. And then in the nightly events, on October 31st, Spooky Eric Anderson came through, who's in the chat here tonight. I saw him earlier. So congratulations, Eric. That was a trick on everyone else and a treat for you, sir. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. Congratulations there. On November 1st, oh yeah, there was an asterisk. There was an asterisk tournament on the 1st, from what I understand. We had 2 tournaments running. So you got to sneak in there and grab that asterisk pin. That is a rare air right there. One winner was Magra44, whose name is private in the Rec Poker profile fields, but public in all of our hearts. That's the one and only Doug Drabeck, who continues to just destroy the field of Rec Poker members in the home game league. He's our all-time winner. No surprises there. And then Frogman Rick Day, who I'm just going to dox as well because he's too good a guy for his name to be private, who sent me this fantastic photo. I want to show this off every time Rick comes up. That's him holding a copy of my book, which doesn't exist. He created a book that he claims I wrote. And every time we get together and talk on Rec Poker in the home games or in the forums or something, he always references a chapter in that book. It just cracks me up every time. So Rick, congratulations, and thank you for that piece of joy that I encounter on a weekly basis, man. I just love that. On November 3rd, JB Twin Cities, also private here, but well, I don't know. JB, you know who you are. Way to go. I'm glad you're still kicking butt as one of our most long-standing members here at Rec Poker. JB's been around forever. On November 4th, Mudslinger 1942. That's Jack Petschel. On November 5th, Gibber 3, the one and only, Gibber, it's private, it says in there. So you're going to have to go into your profile field if Gibber 3 wants the world to know what a glorious name they have, and it's a really good name. Like it's a really good name. Then you should go into that profile field and make sure that that's public information so that we can shout you out on the podcast here. In the mixed events, we had, oh my God, it's Eric Anderson again. This was on November 5th. This was in the daily mixed game on Saturday. So congratulations, Eric, kicking butt there. And then this is fantastic. I mentioned earlier, on Saturdays, we have No Limit Hold'em games earlier in the day for some of our international players. We went back-to-back here. The morning tournament was won by Keck Geek 65, and the afternoon tournament was won by Keck Geek, period. So those are two Keck Geeks that I happen to know share a great deal of DNA. They reside in the same home. They have the same last name. I don't know if I'm going to give away much more private information about them, but congratulations to Team Keck Geek. Way to go. And then on Sunday, this is just the week of return winners. Mudslinger 1942, Jack Petschel again coming up to kick some butt. So Jack, because you won the Sunday night tournament, you have earned a free month at Learn Pro Poker with Ryan Laplante. Lord knows you're going to want to take us up on that. Go get that free month. Send me an email, jim@rec.poker, and we will take care of you and send you that free month. Okay, let's do we are going long. Holy cow. Let's do the roll, and then we'll let these kind folks go home, and we'll go start our recording of the forums edition. So the RCCC was the first one, and then Joe, Josh, Stu, Phil, and Eric. So I see 6 people have entered that one. So we're going to roll a boring old 6-sided die, starting with the RCCCC. Yeah, we're getting calls to the producer. play the gong. Get this show over with. It is a 6. So the winner, it was the last one, Eric Anderson. Congratulations, Eric. So Eric, you're already a premium member at rec.poker. So instead of giving you a free month of premium membership, we're going to take that same $15 and we're going to apply it as a coaching credit towards any of the coaching material offered by our Rec and Crew members in the shop. So whether it's one-on-one coaching, group coaching, database review, getting Tim to run sims for you, anything like that, send me an email, jim@rec.poker, and I'll make sure you've got what you need for that. And yeah, Joe Kula said he put out this call a couple of weeks ago that if people donate to a food bank, he will match your donation up to $100. So no one has emailed me yet to say that they've made that donation to a food bank in their area, but I'd love people to do that. And if you do, Joe will donate a matching amount up to $100. Thank you so much, Joe. You're a fantastic guy. I really appreciate that. That's great.
Hey, I just want to know who that younger producer is that we have on the show today. He's a much younger looking man than we've had in the past.
It's true. He cleans up good. Yeah, I agree. Chris is too modest, but he's looking sharp out there, all clean shaven. He must have some very exciting professional event to prepare for, because he doesn't get all spiffed up like that just for the likes of us. Well, thank you. Thank you to Ryan Laplante so much for being an amazing guest. There's too many YouTube chatters to thank individually, but you all were fantastic today. We got some great questions and a lot of fun. I really like it. Even Phil. So thank you all for showing up for that. Of course, I have to thank Kim and Rob and Chris. I have to share my audio so that I can play the music properly when we get out of here. That's a great tip from producing co-host Chris Jones. And I got to thank Mark Prashant at Website Amp, and the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. But mostly you, the listeners. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.